It's time to take a close look at the Panasonic FZ1. This is a device that I personally always wanted to check out because it's something of a really obscure and back in the day it was quite expensive. Nevertheless, it's awesome that you're tuning in and I welcome you to the channel. In my previous videos we did spoke about every kind of model, or so far I could find, thanks to my fellow collector Mr. Board. He also will joining us today in this video, explaining what actually have been modified on this FZ1. So what I understand of, this is one of the first models they've released back in the day. This is also, by the way, in Japanese version. That has been modified and has very cool new features. And that's what we're going to take a close look at today. If you're going to deep dive into real original retro hardware, there is so many different things you can pick up. You can just pick up an original system, or you can just basically get yourself a product like this particular FZ1 with every single modification that you can think of. Yep, a lot of cool things, and this thing doesn't open up anymore because it comes with an Optical Drive Emulator, RGB modded, and many other cool features. And the reason I picked it up because when it comes to the experience of the 3DO, I just want to have the best experience out there. And if you just want to use a shelf composite or just the S-Video out, there are many different ways to play with this particular product. Also, in my previous videos, we've shown a lot of different versions when it comes to expansion port and all the other crazy things you can get. This sounds maybe crazy, but I bought myself the Street Fighter 2 game and the 3DO because I love to play this particular game on the system. And of course there are many different games that we're going to show off. But let's take a close look at the hardware and specifications. Let's take a close look at an original FZ1 Mr. Board bring with him. I already mentioned the original FZ1 comes with a front loading bay. I personally really liked it. It's similar to the PlayStation 2 now. So when it comes to the capacitors, that were another things that we're going to need to replace, particularly the tiny one at the right. Some of them can get damaged and you need to replace them before they're even going to be happening. So when it also comes to the disk drive, they are very durable, but don't forget disk can get broken or we're going to get disk rot in the future. Nevertheless, that is also one of the reasons I want to have original games, but I just want to change out to an Optical Drive Emulator. Then it comes to the power supply, is another thing I've changed out with my original system because I don't want to have the clunky transformer in the inside. They can generate some heat, and yeah, inside the console heat is always not your best friend. Where retro game systems become very old, we need to take consideration that capacitors are not forever, and that's one of the reasons my particular model will have a completely recap. But let's take a close look at the ultimate 3DO FZ1. But I want to introduce Mr. Port. He is here and is going to give you a quick overview and some information about the Panasonic 3DO.
Hey, this is Mr. Port visiting Wicked here with a 3DO. So what are we looking at here? So the 3DO at ARM-based CPU architecture with two 32-bit CPUs, GPU-CPUs for audio-video processing. We have the Madame and the Clio. We have the video memory, 128 kilobit each. We have a transformator, not entirely sure that's correct English, but there we go, 24 volts, watering down to 12 volts for the system. And we have the expansion port right here, which was originally used for the video CD adapter for MPEG-based video. And there was plans to do an expansion to a M2 64-bit expansion graphical upgrade comparable with the 32X from Sega. Controller port right here, which is a single controller port, which is pretty interesting since this would be based on daisy chaining. So each controller actually connects to each other, so there's no need for more than one controller port. And we have the I/O in the back. We have S-Video, pause it. We have an expansion port right here that is typically used for a memory backup unit, which is an external memory backup that was sold separately, especially with the FZ1 models. The one we are looking here, we did not have a built-in memory manager. You will need a CD to actually access your memory manager internally. There's 32 kilobits of memory on the system itself, and you could expand that with 256 KB externally. The later models like the FZ10 would have a memory manager built in, which at least you would be able to manage your saves with your game saves. We have an A/B select mode here. Only the Japanese units came with this option, where you can switch between 240p and 480i. 240p is typically better quality, right? It's progressive instead of interlaced. However, there are some games that do not support this. An example would be Wolfenstein 3D, which if running in 240p mode would double the speed and make it a bit unplayable. Now, another interesting thing to see here is based on the serial number. You can see when it was manufactured. So this is 1994. C is the month. This is April. And we see the factory usually, which is mostly in Japan. And we see the actual serial number at the end. So now we have the modified 3DO that we are looking at with a ODE, so an optical drive emulator installed. This specific model is the MNEMO. There are alternatives nowadays, a Vixel ODE, internal and external, depending on your wishes. The external one is a little bit more expensive, but allows you to keep the CD-ROM, the optical drive, in here. So we have a USB interface right here with 128 gigs full of ISOs. The Vixel option also allows you to have a micro SD option besides the USB interface. Now, looking at the other modifications that we have here, we have a full recap, which is especially needed for this specific small one right here that usually dies off. That being said, typically Panasonic had high quality caps in their equipment, so normally it's not necessarily needed to replace all, although this specific 3DO all were replaced with new caps, allowing it to live another 30 to 40 years. Why not, right? So looking here, we have a switch. This switch is for centering the screen, which is needed for the RGB mod that we have here. So we do have an RGB mod installed. The RGB mod would then interface to the back here to a DIN connector, allowing the best possible visual quality on the console. So besides that, we also have a SPDIF, digital audio out modification right there, in case you want to have the maximum quality of audio out. We have a Wii adapter modification, so instead of the transformer right here, which is heavy and creates unnecessary heat, this was replaced by directly using a Wii power adapter, which is already 12 volts by itself and directly going into the motherboard right here. Additionally, we have another modification on the controller port, an IGR in-game reset, allowing us lazy gamers to actually reset back to the menu of the ODE so that we can switch games without actually walking to the consoles. Luckily, we don't live in the 90s anymore, so we are lazy and we want to stay on the couch while we switch our games. So that being said, those are the most modifications in here.
Thank you, Mr. Port, for joining the channel, and this device is ready for many years to come when it comes to playing and enjoying some Panasonic 3DO. But there is so much more stuff that we can talk about, because when it comes to the 3DO, we have basically covered the specifications and everything that comes with this device. So then also we're having the arcade stick. Yep, there is an official arcade stick out there, and this particular thing was pretty damn cool. Simply because the way how it looks, but also how it plays. I love fighting games. That's the reason I bought this freaking thing. I love Street Fighter, and combining it, I must say that was a quite interesting experience. Combined with the micro switch joystick and the normal membrane buttons. The arcade stick also includes turbo functionality and of course the Daisy Link connection. So if you want to play together with your friend, you also have the option to use a controller or just use yourself two arcade stick. You can find them, by the way. Of course, we can use it with the freaking Street Fighter joystick and make this thing the ultimate combination and play together with your friends. And you can go all wild if you want to.
Ik ben er ontzettend slecht in met een arcade stick. Ik kan het alleen met de joystick. Dat je nu alvast vertel. Dus even kijken, wat hebben we allemaal. Ik had vanavond op turbo moeten. Kijk. Zo slecht.
You can do it! You can
Volgens mij moet jij spelen.
You can do it! So let's see if it's going to be actually playing well. Controller. Let's find the buttons. Nope. There we go. No. Oh, no! Ken! Give me some time. Oh crap, you got the super! No! No! It's official! I suck too! When it comes to Panasonic peripherals, also there we're going to get quite a lot of different options. Of course, not that massive when you're looking at N64, PlayStation 1 or other companies. Then of course not to forget my favorite 3DO Street Fighter controller that also has been released. I think it was for the Super NES and for the Mega Drive. Don't pay me on it, but in the end I was so happy to have the one, the 3DO. Then we're having the 3DO Bluetooth adapter. So with this very cool piece of tech, you can just use any Bluetooth controller on your 3DO. That is some freaking genius. So if you want to use your, say, the PlayStation 4 controller, you can just connect it with your 3DO. And in this case, you have a wireless connection. It's awesome that there are still people out there making new peripherals for your old 3DO. If you just want to enjoy yourself some gameplay session with a wireless controller. The Optical Drive Emulator is pretty damn cool. You can make subfolders in your memory stick. In this case, you can just make yourself a library of games. You can just put your games on here. And it's super convenient, no wear and tear when it comes to the disk drive, and the loading times are so much faster. Through the ODA we can also basically add, let's say, custom made games, including this Doom game that has all kinds of cool modifications and make the game so much better. But I just wanted to show you some quick games that I really liked. Road Rash, The Way of the Warrior, Return Fire, missed like a lot of different familiar titles, but also cool titles. My favorite ones are, for example, Return Fire, but also going to play a couple of games, and of course Street Fighter, one of my favorite games to play. But this is more like a Mortal Kombat ripoff, The Way of the Warrior. It's kind of laughable, like it's so bad. Like it's... I'll give you like a great example how the intro sounds when playing actually a game.
Welcome, noble challenger. Prepare to find the way. Round 1, fight.
Okay, so the game in general, it's like pretty damn bad. Like, oh man, like... it's so bad that it's, you know, like it's absolutely funny to play actually. But the character I'm playing called just Ninja. I couldn't like let you hear a lot of the music because it's all like copyrighted. So I completely understand that collectors want to have this game because it's so bad that it's actually fun to play. But let's take a close look at one of my favorite games, is like Return to Fire. Because Return to Fire, I did play it back in the day on my PlayStation 1. And in my opinion, 3DO version is a very good port and very nice. Like this game is absolutely cool. It's not a strategy game that you can play alone or against a friend. Basically you have 4, let's say, different vehicles to choose from. The thing that you just need to do is like go to the flag, destroy the building and capture the flag. That's it. And when clearing a stage, you're going to get every single time a different video, or at least so far I have seen. And when you basically die in the game itself, you're going to get yourself the best outro ever. But if you wonder why the 3DO failed, Mega Race is one of those games and you're thinking, yep, now I understand why. Because oh boy, this thing is bad. But of course we also have like some old school classics like Need for Speed on the 3DO, and very cool game. I understand there's even like a modded version when it comes to the game that you have like a better, like faster speed experience. And another classic game is of course Rose Rash. I've played this game absolutely crazy a lot on the PlayStation 1, and the 3DO port is a great game if you're having a 3DO to check it out. If you don't have a good quality control when it comes to the games, you're going to get games like Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. A very like weird looking game where you basically see movies all the freaking time. And this game is absolutely so bad that it is like laughable.
Whoa, deja vu. I've seen this already. First decision, please.
Better than a singles bar. At least we can hear each other. You are single.
Yes. Very.
So bad. But if you just want to enjoy yourself some Panasonic FZ1, it's just a very cool way to play. With the 3DO you can do many crazy things what I'm showing you here. This is basically the ultimate machine if you just want experience and have all of the games plug and play ready. I want to thank you Mr. Port for joining me here, explaining more about the Panasonic and the ways you can play. Would be great if you subscribe, hit the little bell and check out my other 3DO videos. And would be great to see you in the next video.